All right, so what now is Daniel Bryan's current situation? This has been up in the air over the last week. Apparently, he's done contractually with the WWE, so the loser leave SmackDown match could very well have been his farewell to the company.
Yeah, we didn't realize it at the time, but that match, and we were talking about the stipulation and how ridiculous it was being just one of the shows, not the promotion, but it actually was the last match on his contract. He didn't have matches on the contract, but the last match of his contractual term, and he literally is a free agent right now. He's still talking to them, I'm sure, but he could talk to whoever he wants. He could do whatever he wants right now.
So then for the stipulation, because we said, boy, that's not really an earth-shaking stipulation. He's got to leave one of the minimum 3 television programs that this company produces. Why wasn't it loser leave WWE or whatever? But nobody believes stipulations anymore anyway. I know that. But were they trying to hedge their bets? Were they, well, we're still talking to him, but it doesn't look like he's going to sign, so we'll say loser leaves SmackDown, and if we sign him back, we'll bring him back on Raw? What? I don't still understand why that was a necessary thing or what they're doing there. But is there any indication of, I know he would probably rather be free to go and pursue a life of wrestling freedom around the world, but is there, at this point in time, would anything else be a step down for him and just he'd be doing it for the fun of it? Wrestling in Japan or whatever? I don't know if Mexico would be fun right now with rampant COVID and his concussion issues, and you never know where those guys are coming from. But he's almost at a point where he's been a top guy, even though he's not as over as he was several years ago. Nobody else is either. He's been a top guy in the biggest company in the world, and now it would have to be a thing where if he went somewhere else, it's just because he just wanted to have fun, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, again, right now it's a little weird because of the pandemic and because shows in Japan are still being closed, and I don't even know what's happening with the shows in Mexico. But I think if you're someone who has made millions of dollars and you actually got into the business and survived in the business primarily because of your love for it, and you've done everything there is to do in WWE, everything you're ever going to do, he's done. Unless Vince all of a sudden says, you know what? Push him again. He's done everything he's going to do. He's main event of WrestleMania, had major fan appeal, even though WWE blew it with that. I could see someone like that wanting to main event the Tokyo Dome. Maybe not appear on it, but maybe main event, maybe have the best match at the Tokyo Dome. I could see someone like that wanting to have a hair versus hair match at Arena Mexico. I think that if you're someone who loved wrestling and has been in the WWE for a long time and is a main eventer, and you had a bucket list of things to do, there probably still are several things to do. Have fun with your work.
Well, yeah.
Not be micromanaged.
I'm not saying he shouldn't. I'm just thinking that if he does not re-sign now, he still can't do those things for the next year or so and have it the way he obviously doesn't want to have a empty arena hair versus hair match in Arena Mexico or, a quarter full Tokyo Dome. So it's going to be a while. Maybe is that why he says, maybe I'll just rest up and relax and think about that next year or whatever. I can see him.
Will they do that? Would they sign a short-term contract for just him?
Well, I don't know. Probably not, because they probably think he's going to want to go to AEW. I don't know with his wife being tied up with them with a reality show and all that other stuff, if that be a thing. And you just mentioned Daniel Bryan loves wrestling. Would he be one of those people who would be deluded enough to think that he could make a difference and snatch AEW, snatch a knot in their tail and put them back on the right track if he by himself was there? Or do you think that even Bryan would realize, because he's a pretty smart guy, I can't do anything with this, even me. I could have a good match with this guy and that guy, but I would still be a guy having a good match on a shit show.
I think that's what it is. I don't think there's anything he could do to go in there and change the tone of AEW, because that comes from Tony Khan and the executive vice presidents. And unless you're going to go in there and be above them or another executive vice president, I don't think that. But going back to what we said earlier, I could see Daniel Bryan, despite what Jim Cornette thinks, saying, you know what? I've seen all this hype for Kenny Omega. I want to work with him. I want to have a classic match with Kenny Omega. I could see someone like Daniel Bryan thinking that.
Then he better hope it takes place in Japan.
Maybe so. But I mean, I could see him wanting that match. So in terms of, I can't see him saying, oh, you know, I'd like to go to AEW to work with Cody. I just don't think. And that's not even meant as a knock to Cody. I just can't see that appealing to Daniel Bryan. He would probably find it appealing to work with Darby Allin, Kenny Omega. There's a little bit of bad blood in the history between him and the Young Bucks. I don't know if that would still be on his list.
Is there? I don't even know about this. It wasn't my week to keep track of them.
A bunch of people sent the quote from their book to us, and we just never did it on the air, I guess. There was a match, I think, in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla years ago. The Young Bucks versus, I want to say, Daniel Bryan and maybe Roddy Strong. And I guess Bryan and maybe Roddy, too, had the idea of, we're going to kick the crap out of you guys to get some sympathy on you because you guys are such big heels.
Right.
Here in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. And instead, they just kicked the living shit out of the Young Bucks, and the people loved it. And I believe, from what I heard and the little bits I read, and I didn't read it all, so maybe I'm getting parts of it wrong, but I believe there are still significant hurt feelings from the Young Bucks to at least Daniel Bryan, maybe Roddy Strong.
What, just because the people cheered them when they were kicking the shit out of...
Because they were extra stiff.
Oh, bullshit.
I believe so. I mean, someone will listen to this and correct me and send you the
I'm not saying that that's not the story that they may have told. I'm saying Roderick Strong and Daniel Bryan were extra stiff with the Young Bucks. And well, either Roddy or Daniel Bryan could stretch both of the Young Bucks by themselves if they wanted to. But those are the last guys that you would imagine or conceive would be unprofessional unless those jackoffs just wouldn't slow down and fucking listen. Maybe they didn't understand hey, slow down and fucking listen, shut the fuck up and open your ears type of thing. Maybe they got offended by that, but I don't think we're talking about Stan Hansen and Bruiser Brody here taking liberties with Roderick Strong and Bryan Danielson. That's ridiculous.
Imagine right now if there was a billionaire out there who said, you know what? I've always wanted to do something in wrestling, and all these networks seem to really be into airing wrestling right now. I'm a billionaire. Daniel Bryan's a free agent. CM Punk's out there. Samoa Joe's out there. There are some pretty big names that are now free agents. I mean, I'm under the assumption Punk's never coming back, because why would he?
Yeah.
Why would he?
But here you've just made another point that I've been making since this whole AEW thing got started. It's just what it's done is spoiled the opportunity for somebody to come along and do it right. Because now here's, like you said, CM Punk, Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson. If a billionaire was to come along, the other billionaire that came in a year and a half ago has already got one of the major TV outlets tied up. He's already got some talent under contract that you would actually want if you were operating a serious wrestling promotion, and he's got all the attention. So it would be even harder now for somebody to come along and try to be serious about it, which is exactly what my point was. If the guy wasn't going to be serious and try to do something to salvage pro wrestling and just put on this shit show, it'd been better off if he hadn't done it. Because maybe in a year or two, somebody else might have come along and had more, I don't know, fucking sense and done something that could be watchable. But now that's not going to happen. And if some billionaire was sitting there, I've got $1 billion. And there's Bryan Danielson and Samoa Joe and CM Punk and this guy. But you know what? That other jackoff already did it, so I'm just not going to do it.
I don't think that's the rational way a wrestling fan with money thinks about things typically.
Well, yeah, a rational wrestling fan with money. I'm not sure that a rational wrestling promoter with money. I don't know any of those things actually coexist. But I would like to see Bryan Danielson do whatever he wants to do as far as going around the world. If he wants to wrestle in Mexico, as I said, I would stay away from Mexico. I can see where he would love going to Japan, being one of the real Japanese stars in the Tokyo Dome, not Harpo. Do it part-time, do it so he has time to spend with his family, don't get dropped on his head and have any more problems with concussions. But I just think it would be such a come down, and just that's not the way that we would want to remember him, to go to AEW just to work with a couple of these guys and have a good match on a bad television program.
It isn't.
And unfortunately, there's nothing else in this country to do of any magnitude unless he just wanted to do a few independent shows just to work with a couple of guys in that way without doing television or, working against Vince in this country on a national basis.
See, here's the thing. He's in a position now where he can control his merchandise. Now, again, out of WWE, he's back to being Bryan Danielson, which I always like better as a name than Daniel Bryan, because what a stupid name. But he's back to being Bryan Danielson. He controls and owns his own merchandise.
Yeah.
If he main events the Tokyo Dome, you got to figure he's getting a nice payday at the Tokyo Dome. Can't speak to Arena Mexico. I don't know what the payday there would be, but he's in a position where he could probably work a really light schedule, cherry pick what he wants to do and who he wants to work with, and not be frustrated. Or he can go sign on for another few years and go work on Raw, where he'll make a lot of money, and he'll be frustrated every single night of the week.
Yeah. No, I identify with that. And I'm all for him. Like I said, I would rather see him do high-profile independent matches against hand-picked guys that he wanted to work with and draw a house for some of those promoters than just end up another one of the WWE guys that showed up in AEW that they don't know what to do with, and he could have good matches, but it would be on a rotten television program and he couldn't control all of the builds, so the angle would probably be the shits. And unfortunately, there's, does he want to go back to Ring of Honor just to do that same thing? Maybe if he wanted to know, if he wanted to have a really good match with somebody and be on a television program that wouldn't be insulting, he could do it on Ring of Honor television.
Hell, they'll make him the booker, but are they going to pay him?
But is anybody else going to pay him? You just said he's leaving. He's not going to make millions of dollars on Raw, but he wouldn't be stressed and frustrated. Nobody else is going to pay him what Vince was paying him, except for possibly Tony Khan.
And would it affect the things that he wanted to do? If he wanted to go to New Japan, and New Japan and Ring of Honor's relationship is over, would him going to Ring of Honor affect him working the Tokyo Dome?
I can't imagine that New Japan wouldn't say, we don't care what you do in the United States. You can run a lemonade stand. We're dealing with you one-on-one. So he could do that, and he could also do Ring of Honor. He could also do pretty much, I wouldn't think that New Japan would give a shit what promotion he worked for in this country if they could get him for a few matches, big matches. So I'm just saying here, those are options. If he wanted to have a good match on television with a handpicked opponent on a program that he wouldn't be embarrassed to be on, he could do it on Ring of Honor. Or he could do high-profile independent shows with those same opponents, and they wouldn't be on television at all, and he could still have the fun. And he's controlling his own merchandise. He doesn't have to wrestle to sell merchandise. He could certainly work in Japan for New Japan and still do, I would think, whatever he wanted to over here. Are they going to treat him like some flunky? If you don't work for Joe Schmo, then you can't work for us? I doubt that.
You never know, though. I mean, it happens.
Well,
typically, guys have relationships in the States with the company that New Japan works with.
It
happens.
In the old days, that was a strict thing, and they had plenty of talent. These days, they ain't got plenty of talent.
If he works for Ring of Honor, he probably won't be able to work for CMLL because their relationship fell apart too.
Well, but golly gee whiz.
You just don't want him to go to Mexico. I get it.
No, well, no, I'm saying if he was going to go to Mexico, isn't CMLL the least paying company and the most traditional in Mexico? So he probably wouldn't want to do that to begin with.
But if he wants to do the hair versus hair match at Arena Mexico on the anniversary show, that's the only promotion he could work for.
Well, he could shave somebody else's head at some other place and make more money. I don't fucking know. But there's options there, but I cannot see him going to AEW full time, even for money, if he loves the wrestling business. And I say full-time, once a week, which is what full-time is now.
And TNT hates surprises, so we'll know in advance. It'll be, hey, Bryan Danielson here Wednesday.
Oh, that would be classic. They could give that one away, and then they could bring Shaq and Tyson back and have a three-way.
Jericho is a bigger name because of what he did 20-some-odd years ago.
Yes.
But for the last 15 years, 10 years, Daniel Bryan is a much bigger name. He would probably be as big a name as you can get from WWE. I mean, not getting Cena, we don't think, even though those Wipeout commercials are on nonstop. Daniel Bryan's a pretty significant name. There aren't too many who have been bigger stars than him for the last 10 years.
He's the biggest name that's contract is going to expire anytime in the near future. Unless whoever's contract is expiring is currently in an iron lung, then they might let their contract.
Hey, let me ask you this. Monday Night Wars, Nitro and Raw going at it. A star at that level, their contract expires. A, what's the likelihood it would happen? B, what's the likelihood they would end up on the other company's show the next day? I mean, right now his contract, he's a free agent. We don't have to wait for a non-compete. He's a free agent. He can do whatever he wants right now.
Yeah.
If this was a big wrestling war, wouldn't he be on the other show right away?
He would either be on the other show right away, or he wouldn't be leaving the first show in the first place. And the only way that anybody got away from Vince, as has been recounted umpteen times, is there were loopholes. Savage was working without a contract. They were talking about a contract, but he didn't want to be an announcer, but Vince didn't know how bad he didn't want to be an announcer. And that's what he took off. With Rude, they had taken him out of the ring because and he had a Lloyd's of London settlement over his back, did he not? He was one of the Minnesota guys that got Lloyd's of London. Yeah. So they didn't, because he was not an active wrestler, and whatever the fuck the situation was, they didn't have him on contract. Luger was in the midst of renegotiation, but had actually expired, and that was the first big one, the shocking one, which led to Vince not letting that happen too much anymore for anybody on the active wrestling roster. So there was those ones that did get away. There were asterisks in that he was caught unawares with Luger because negotiations were still going on. He, at that point, Vince didn't believe that anybody was going to go in that direction because it had not worked out well for anybody the previous 5 years that went from WWE to WCW. And as I said, with Savage, he was an announcer. They were changing contracts with Rude. He was a manager. I think DiBiase might have slipped out the same way. And then they started signing everybody up to long-term everything. And then if there was a war, an actual war going on now, and they knew that Bryan's contract was going to expire on whatever it was, May the 1st or whatever, then he would have already been signed to a new one several months ago, or they would have moved him down, diminished him, and even disappeared him if he wouldn't sign a new one. But instead, he was in the main event on their network television program his last night in. So I think that indicates that if he does go to AEW, they don't even care anymore.
I will also say we are recording this early on Friday. SmackDown airs tonight. If by chance Daniel Bryan happens to be on SmackDown, please disregard this entire conversation.
Oh, my, they wouldn't do that after a week. They wouldn't do that, would they?
Oh, no, they don't fuck up angles there.
All right. Well, you're right about that. So please disregard everything if something happens. But you know, Bryan, if Bryan Danielson is on all those long flights to Mexico and to Japan and to Portugal and Qatar, they're having a wrestling show. Guys are taking bookings in Qatar,
Qatar,
which is somewhere in the Middle East, huh?
It's pronounced Qatar.
Well, they'll cut her, they'll cut him, they'll cut anybody over there. But if Daniel Bryan's going to be taking a lot of these long flights, I bet she's going to need something to listen to. and something to listen to him on so he can listen to our podcast on his exclusive Raycon wireless earbuds. These things in your ears, folks, can make all the difference, whether it's for work or play. If you're on the move, outdoors, on planes, working out, whatever the case, or just minding your own business and studying at home, a nice audio book, whatever. The Raycon earbuds look great and feel even better. They come in a range of great colors, customizable gel tips included for a comfortable in-ear fit. You don't even have to grease these things. I tried it. It doesn't help. And Raycons are built to go wherever you go with quick and seamless Bluetooth pairing and a compact charging case. Folks, right now, Raycon is offering 15% off of all of their products for just my listeners. And here's what you got to do to get it. Go to buyraycon, BUYRAYCON, buyraycon.com/JCE. You're going to get 15% off your entire order, whatever you get. One set of earbuds, two sets of earbuds, anything else on the site, it doesn't matter. 15% off, so grab a pair and a spare. 15% off at buyraycon.com/JCE, buyraycon.com/JCE. Boy, that'll just make Bryan's trips across the oceans fly by, Bryan, won't they? Just fly by, especially listening to us tell him how great he is.
That's exactly right.